I want to thank the McNair family who first brought these issues to us when their son died playing football in Maryland in the heat of the day and basically did not receive enough proper training. He educated us on the standards that needed to be in our legislation on health and safety, and this is the most landmark piece of legislation protecting student athletes for the type of preparation they need to compete in college sports. I want to thank the chairman for including an improvement to that medical trust fund offered by Senator Kim to make sure that that money is enhanced in the future if somehow it's not meeting the needs of what is required. The legislation is also landmark in that it definitely makes sure that predatory contracting done by agents or universities or conferences or shill organizations don't get students stuck in binding arbitration. No way out because you signed a document that basically you didn't even understand and basically took away your legal rights. This is landmark in the protections that it gives student athletes. It is also landmark in cutting down on agents' activities because we've seen the worst of activities taking advantage of high school students, asking them to sign. Somebody comes up to you in a high school gym after you've had a miraculous night and they promise you an NBA career if you'll just allow them to represent you. The next thing you know, you've signed a piece of paper that probably signed away property, signed away earnings, signed away things that even if you never make it into college or the pros, all of a sudden now you are financially obligated to this person who took advantage of you. So making agents register, making them liable for deceitful information, making them accountable to a federal law of fines is a first-time federal law that will help us in cracking down on these bad actors. I want to emphasize a couple of points. First, I want to thank Senator Hickenlooper for his unbelievable leadership in thinking about women in Olympic sports. I know he comes from a state where they care so much about women in Olympic sports, but the majority helped work with Senator Hickenlooper and the USOPC to not only protect our bill as it does for the Sports Broadcasting Act and future revenue going to women in Olympic sports, landmark provisions authored by Senator Hickenlooper and negotiated with the majority basically says that those women in Olympic sports should be protected for the next 9 years from the wealthiest divisions and from those who are more struggling for the next 4 years. Why is that so important? It's important because we are already seeing cuts to thousands of women in Olympic sports, and we need them to be protected throughout this. I will note that there was recent public polling that said that 87% of the public think the #1 priority here is not football. Believe it or not, a lot of this discussion is about football. Believe it or not, the #1 thing the public cares about, 87% of the public, please protect women in Olympic sports. And that is exactly what this bill does, and so I want to thank Senator Hickenlooper for that. There's been much made and discussion about whether student athletes support this bill. Mr. Chairman, I want to enter into the record a letter from a student athlete advocacy group that basically represents 500,000 students in Division I, Division II, and Division III committees, who says the bill's protections for student athletes at all divisions, including transfer rights, changes in college sports, graduation, and sexual harassment and sexual assault and harassment, that this is great transparency on registration and fees and important antitrust protection. So I want to enter that into the record.
Without objection, will be admitted.
And there has been much made of late that somehow maybe the Congressional Black Caucus doesn't support us moving forward on this bill. They have not said that somehow maybe some other organizations that want to slow this issue down. I get that they definitely want to slow down the SCORE Act. I join them in that effort. But I'd also like to enter into the record a letter from Craig Robinson, who is the brother of Michelle Obama, brother-in-law to the President of the United States, who asks us to support this legislation because, as he says, he was a coach and a student athlete himself, and he supports this legislation. So I doubt the President's brother-in-law would be joining us in this effort if he thought anything in this act was untowards athletes or not a victory in moving forward the debate on how important it is to represent athletes' rights.
Without objection, that will be admitted as well.
There are some people who think that doing nothing can lead to collective bargaining, and while I think I'm supportive of a concept, our witness before the committee thought that collective bargaining from the Pac-12 is something, but I get the Pac-12 is probably a state bottom-up approach that might work. But having a bottom-down approach here in the United States Senate where somehow somebody thinks we're going to pass a mandate by the federal government to say that state employees could somehow be mandated by the federal government to collectively bargain is not something that's going to happen anytime soon. Our legislation does, though, say, let's create a commission with students, with HBCUs, with the interested parties, and discuss what is the best foot forward for collective bargaining or other options that can continue to solve some of our problems. So, Mr. Chairman, there are some on our side who would have loved more time to deal with this bill. Clearly, it is complex. There are some that would hope that we would continue to make further changes. I commit to them that we are going to do that. But we need order and stability now. The craziness that is happening in this marketplace with cutting of thousands of roster slots, the taxing students' fees for education to pay for football, the arms race that is basically taking money away from research and development. Our task here is to win the race and innovation against the Chinese, a $1.4 billion population. We have 500 million in our country. How are we going to do that? Because we have a better education system, and it's all over the country, but not if we continue to let the demise of college sports not only take away athletes' rights, not only take away revenue, but also diminish our R&D capabilities, particularly at land-grant institutions. So, Mr. Chairman, I know we made big concessions last night to the Big Ten to make sure that they felt that this was a bill that helped protected their interests for the future. I'm sure we're going to have many more conversations with them.